So, ladies and gentlemen, we are now ready with our first panel, which is the CXO panel on the theme of Auto Retail Future Ready. So, we will now begin the panel on Auto Retail Future Ready. And firstly, I'd like to invite on stage our esteemed speakers for this session. Mr. Akash Pasi, President, Bus Division CV, Mr. Arvind Kapil, Group Head Retail Assets from HDFC Bank Limited, Mr. Dinesh Kulkarni, CFO, Kuvi Technology Service Private Limited, Mr. Ranjivit Singh, Chief Growth Officer from Hero Motor Corp, Mr. Rajiv Chaba, President and MG Motor India Private Limited, Mr. Santosh Iyer, Managing Director and CEO of Mercedes-Benz India Private Limited, and last but not least, our session moderator, Mr. Hormad Sorabji, Editor of Autocar India. May I please request our esteemed speakers, along with our session moderator, to kindly join us on the dais for this very important CXO panel. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a very warm and hearty welcome to our esteemed panel here. So without any further ado, I'd like to now hand it over to our session moderator, Mr. Sorabji, asking him to kindly make his opening remarks and moderate this session.
Welcome everyone to the first session, which is the theme is Auto Retail Future Ready. Clearly, the future is very difficult to predict in this day and age. Sometimes you don't know what's happening next month, leave alone after a couple of years. But I think there are certain trends which we've seen which have actually been accelerated post-COVID, and that is really the importance of technology in every business. I think software is going to be a key differentiator in retail, the way customers are handled. Obviously, everyone's spoken about how important going digital is, but at the same time, there's the good old-fashioned analog way of selling and retailing cars, which is with touch and feel. And of course, there's the way people look at cars. Are they just mobility solutions? Do people still look at them as, continue to look at them as objects of desire? Clearly, there are, all kinds of customers out there, and, just how do you harness, their needs and aspirations? And I think a lot of that is being done by technology today as well. So we're going to discuss a lot of these things, and first I'd like to introduce the panel. We have Mr. Arvind Kapil, who's the Group Head, Retail Assets, HDFC Bank Limited. Arvind, thanks for joining us. We have Akash Pasi, who's President, Bus Division, VE Commercial Vehicles. Good to have you here. We have Rajiv Chaba, President and MG Motor India Private Limited. We have Santosh Iyer, who is the Managing Director of Mercedes-Benz. And we have Mr. Ganesh Kumar, who is the CEO and founder of Kuvi Technology Service Private Limited. And Mr. Ranjivit Singh, who's the Chief Growth Officer, Hero Motor Corp. So quite a panel over here. So, oh, sorry.
Ganesh could not join, so my name is Dinesh Kulkarni. I'm a CFO of Kuvi.
Okay, Dinesh. Well, that's the new Ganesh. So, okay, good to have you with us. I'd just like to start off with just a very general kind of, to throw the panel open is generally a broad thoughts on how the business model is going to evolve in times to come. Rajiv, I'm going to get the OEMs to start off first. So, Rajiv, clearly you've done a lot with technology in the cars, all your connected tech and all the ADAS you talk of. But, I just want really to look at the way going forward, how the whole retail business is evolving. And frankly, I think the topic I want to steer around is really the importance of tech and everything.
Yeah. So, thanks, Hormuz. When we talk about retail business, so first thing is that OEMs should stop talking about wholesales. Right. So, yeah. So I think that's the first point. Yes, we all, including us at MG India, get saddled with issues of cars stuck due to whatever reasons and whatever situations. And we need to do wholesales. But I think first thing is that everything has to be led from the consumer side. What do they want? So that's why it's all retails. And this is nothing to do with technology. It has to do with the mindset. Just imagine, and we all know it commonsensically, but just imagine that if all the force of an OEM, area managers, along with the dealer manpower is focused on how do you retail that car to the dealer versus in the month end, how do you push metal to the dealer? I mean, the whole things get aligned in a very different way, and the kind of synergy it produces is unbelievable. So first thing I think is we need to change the mindset, and in my opinion, if FADA can do that, talk to everyone possible and saying that we should ban reporting wholesales. It has to be retail. So that's the first thing. Right. Another things are when you said about technology, again, consumer is going to push it, may not be even OEMs. So when you send a courier and you can track and trace, in our business, when somebody is buying a car, customer cannot track and trace. Right? So the track and trace has to be done by the consumer, and technology can help easily. D2C model, what let's say Mercedes, I think, has done it, captures this. So may not be all the elements, but at least track and trace. We all have to do it. At our company also, we have been slow, but in this year, we'll do it. Likewise, there are many other areas, but I think I'll leave it to the rest of the panel to answer and talk about that.
No, interesting you say that, look at retails, but I think the Vahan data, barring a few states of registrations, in a way, is giving that data. So I think that is coming and giving a clear picture. But Santosh, I think turn to you. Rajiv also alluded to the D2C model or retail of the future, as you call it, quite a revolutionary step. I'm sure it was quite a challenge as well. I think perhaps it came at the right time when even there was a nice tension in the pipeline as far as demand goes. So just your thoughts on this, and frankly even the challenges you all were facing. And I from what I understand, the challenges were also tech related in that sense, and how the customers have reacted to this.
Thanks, Hormuz. And I think it's a very provocative thinking. When you see this, the traditional business model that we call takes the customer, in our view, away from the dealers. Because the fundamental, the starting point is for the customer is price when he is starting to discuss with the dealer. And the dealer, because of competitive nature of the business, has to offer a best price. Now here, the profit optimization can only happen if you take more money from the customer. So this negotiation which happens across partners, irrespective of whatever margin an OEM would give a dealer, will not help. Because it either goes to the market, and in this hall, I can say that there will be many of you who would have lost a good friend, a good family member, who called you up saying, can you get me a car with this price, and somebody else has offered a better price. And this takes away the trust in the relationship. So that's one point of the game that we try to change. The second part, and here my friend from HDFC would actually may not agree or disagree, but the inefficiency is also in the wholesale funding, and what Rajiv rightly mentioned, wholesale. With wholesale, you have capital cost, you have inventory cost, which is all sitting, which is completely, many of you have pledged your personal assets to get that inventory funding loans and stuff. So we thought, if you want to really live the motto of best customer experience, let's take this point out. We transition to a business model where price and the direct is done by us, which completely complies to the legal requirements, and then the entire focus is on customer experience. We take the inventory out, which is one of the major costs. So end of the day, the customer gets a better price. We as an OEM have a better data, which is now I will come to the technology bit of it, because we have better data access, because every lead comes in our system, every transaction is via our system. And last not the least, the dealers, we now call them as franchisee partners, are highly profitable because they are very clear that there is a retention in this business. This retention is assured, costs are all given, and today, I think you can talk to some of our partners. We drive cost of retail. We say you bring the cost down, because if the cost is there, then we have to reimburse this money back to you. So this is what we call it, retail of the future. The second part, what Hormuz mentioned about the technology and the challenges. So, we have this huge federal structure with all these registration, which is still done by our partners. How do we set it up? How do we capture it in our system? It's an ongoing exercise. We are still learning. But if we have to deliver omni-channel retail, which means along with the dealer partners, and I think that's a commitment, we will only do business with partners. That's also a commitment when we have done this transition. Thank you. So, because there is a value that all of you add to our customers, and therefore, to get this omni-channel experience, the online-offline journey, which means if he comes to you, you give him a price, you give him a delivery commitment, he goes to our website, he sees the same price, he sees the same discount, he sees the same delivery commitment, and that's when trust builds up. So this is all possible only if you have a tech stack, but prior to the tech stack, you need an agreement or a business model which is fully transparent from the customer view, fully transparent also between the OEM and the franchisee partners, and this is what this model develops. So we call it retail of the future. We are thankful to all our partners, because it all started from trust. They all believed us. They all signed the dotted line on trust. I also remember FADA taking this up with us, saying, hey, is it all okay? We said, please trust us. And today, results are to be seen. It's 1 year of going live, and we are quite successful. So our firm belief is the retail of the future would be based on customer experience. All of you in this room will continue to play a bigger role in that. Digital will be there as an enabler to do our business together, and the customer benefits with a much more transparent retail system. So that's the thought.
Thanks, Santosh. Trust and transparency, clearly. In fact, we've seen that in, I think for me, the best example, honestly, which affects all of us, because all of us has clicked and moved to cart, is Amazon. Just the whole interface, I think the transparency of it really, makes you want to shop more and more. So clearly, I think, Santosh, what you said is right. But, the whole D2C model, while it's you've done it at the higher end of the market, I just want to, get thoughts from both the CV side and the two-wheeler side. Akash, clearly, we are talking what the MRP prices and sometimes what the transaction prices can be two different things. Can this be a challenge? Because sometimes, discounts are on a case-to-case basis, depending time of year, stock, all that sort of thing. And sometimes transparency may not be too good a thing in this case. So just wanted to get your thoughts on, this whole move towards what a revolutionary model which Mercedes has done, but clearly, smaller volumes, different kind of customers as well, probably more evolved. But, for the CV market, how do you think this would work?
Thank you. I think first of all, retail, how it's going forward, it's all about whether it is retail, whether it's OEM business, whether it's supply chain, it's all about disruption. And you pointed it out very much in the start on technology. Technology is playing a big role. I know in FADA and a lot of our Volvo and Eicher dealers sitting here, we know that even in FADA, like us, there's a challenge that the second generation is not coming into the business. And that's, I guess, technology is to blame. Because the father wants a phone which he can just make calls. but the son wants to play or has all access to information and can do 10 other tasks on the phone and make phone business friendly more than the previous generation. So I think the business model is evolving, and that is where the challenge also comes on pricing. So today in our industry, I think the MRP price versus the transaction price, or discounting if you may call so, is the gap is quite high. I do not know how does it apply in the two-wheeler or the four-wheeler industry, but here it could at times be even as high as 5 to 7 lakhs. And therefore transparency needs to be much more. And I think that would evolve. Technology will bring that in. From our side, we feel that whether it is offtake or retail, eventually customer is the king. This saying has been there for decades, but it's either the OEM who has been the king or dealer has been the king, depending on how times have been. But I think it's eventually coming to a stage where customer is the king. We think that price transparency is the best. It's a cycle we need to get out of, and hopefully MRP and transaction prices are as they are, where they are, and as they're given out.
Right, and do you think, given the current situation, and sorry, before I jump to everyone, I'd just like the thoughts again from the OEM. Just very quickly, whether fortunate or unfortunate, the current situation of this huge supply and demand gap, which is easing out, has actually helped harden prices, and the level of discounting has practically disappeared. In fact, the waiting list is the new discount in a sense, how quickly you can get a vehicle. So, Akash, just with you, and then I just want to get Rajiv and Santosh very quickly before I turn to the other panelists. Of course, Ranvijit also.
Well, thank you, but unfortunately, that's never happened in the CV industry, at least not in
the
years I've known. So I will pass this on, and I hope that you have good wishes.
I think even, Ranvijit, the two-wheelers also under stress in that sense. So really, you are not having the kind of, let's say, situation that the PV business has had.
Yeah. Am I? Okay, great. Firstly, what a great opportunity it is for me to be here at FADA, and I want to just make sure everyone understands it's FADA and not FADA, as my table pointed out to me.
John will be happy.
John will be happy. His blood pressure will be under control. So that's good.
Not all of us are wearing ties, I have to say that.
Yeah. I believe, we're very fortunate to be where we are. It's a young demographic country that we're talking about here in India. Also, when you look at auto sales, 80% of the needs are actually satisfied by the two-wheeler industry. And then I don't need to introduce Hero MotoCorp there. To the points that are really topical today is about the consumer at the center of everything that we do, retail driving that, and the dealer playing an enormous role in the fulfillment of not just sales, but the entire cycle. It's the pre-sales, it's the sales, it's the exchange, it's service, it's loyalty, it's experience, it's everything. But very important to understand, and we're talking about a different scale now completely. And it's very important to therefore understand that culture drives a lot of the behaviors that will also impact the business that we are in. And that culture is the middle class of India. And we've been reading a lot about how the middle class is really growing in this country. And that's where the buying power is. And that's good news, because that's going to keep growing. With that, what this culture really needs is a touch and feel, at least from the section of society that I'm talking about to a very large extent. And the dealer plays a front and center role in that. How do we drive that up so that we are ready for the festivals, that we are ready for the marriages, that people come in and check out their vehicles before they buy? There is perfect knowledge. The younger generation with digitization is checking out things even before they come to the store. But it's not the same, as it is maybe at the top end of the spectrum. And so it's very important that for business growth, we keep these things in mind and we calibrate our business for that requirement. Because when we do, the consumer will win, the dealer will win, and we are here to serve that ecosystem. And I think it's important to keep that in mind before we really go out and jump out into some things, because we're talking about the entire country. We're talking about the entire demographics, and we are talking about people whose livelihoods depend on this. So we literally say, when heroes move, the nation moves. And we have to be very sensitive towards that. So that's really my thoughts on this topic.
Thank you. And just very quickly, Rajiv and Santosh, just one line from you again on the current situation, supply-demand mismatch, which has been there, definitely easing up. Clearly waiting for months. I mean, we spoke, you've got huge supply constraints. Santosh, even some of your models, GLS, for example, and everyone after you on that, and some important people after you on that. So, Rajiv, with you first, because clearly this has an impact also on the behavior of consumers towards sometimes pushing for more discount. Is it this the time to really clean up things while we have this situation as well, and kind of stabilize proper price kind of environment? Because the old days of wholesale, of just dumping just to get the numbers, and you're talking about retail, but it looks like wholesale is coming in certain segments. Wholesale is quite close to retail in that sense.
So Hormuz, theoretically and ideally you are right, but the nature of this beast, which is competitive industry, is different. And then we all feel that at such kind of situations, which was COVID-induced disruption and shortages because of chips, the supplies were less, and that point of time, obviously, discounts came down. So you would assume that when the situation comes back to kind of normal, we can maintain that situation, but that doesn't happen in real life. It's all about supply and demand. So the moment you take it any other industry, it's nothing to do with only auto industry. Shipping and freight rates had gone from, let's say, 100 to 500. It has come down to 125, 150 already, because capacities get created because of that shortages. Within chips also, capacities are getting created. Why the pricing of the chips company is down? Because share market is already discounting that they may not be able to make that kind of a premium. So within auto industry also, within India, let's say, there may be shortages of few models at this point of time, but that's temporary. Already shortages easing out. Lots of models, in my opinion, are available off the shelf. Some newly launched and some other premium products, because of short supplies, may have a wait list. But actually, this is just temporary phenomena. Unfortunately, it will be back to supply and demand equation. And it depends on the OEMs really, how do they want to maintain that. This is what I would say.
Santosh, very quickly,
No, I agree. Firstly, to start with, it's not a great situation. It's a good problem to have when the demand is more than supply from a sales perspective. But when you look at from a customer perspective, they get frustrated. We have all those calls. Many of you get it. You guys, some of you also call up for cars. But on the other side, I think the supply-demand topic, which Rajiv rightly mentioned, it's about the ambition of the OEM. Have we called the market right? And if we call the market right, we need to adjust supply so that we don't end into a situation where we are now also pushing. Because I think in my experience, I have seen that we, as OEMs, we feel that the demand can be created. Yes, it can be created by our partners. But if the product and the price is in the right setup, the product life cycle is in the right area, and then the discount management and price management has to be done at the OEM side so that the demand continues, else cut the pipeline. Because there is no point in building inventory, building capital cost to it, building more cost, and then also pushing it to the customer, maybe an outdated model, an outdated color, or anything of this sort. So this is, I think, the role of planning using data now to predict, really using modeling. So what's the order bank? How is the trend? Based on this inquiry, can I cut the pipeline in 3 months' time so that we don't need to do this? Because there is no magic pill that the audience in front also has to push it down and try to create that market, which may not exist because of any reason, macroeconomic reasons. But yes, we don't see softening yet, but customers and market cannot be taken for granted because of the macroeconomic situation that is around us.
Thank you, Santosh. Arvind, just to get your thoughts, we are talking about technology. I think even in the banking sector, clearly it's important, in a way, can even be a threat to a certain extent. So, clearly, as Santosh had also said, using tech, using software to model, forecast rather, to understand, where, let's say, demand really is and where it's not as well.
Yeah, well, thanks. I think when I was thinking about banking connected with automobile, my take is that fundamentally, before we even get into the tech value add, we're finding, and I'm finding, the automobile industry facing similar challenges probably 3-4 years earlier the banks have faced. If you look at the customer segments, they're talking about your industry, almost 45% of them being millennials. And like many of my colleagues on the tires, and here, if you look at most of the kids here, our kids are growing up, and most of them want to do it themselves. Most of them are very comfortable with various platforms, whether I heard Amazon, whether it's Apple. Your cars are getting intelligent cars. You have an ecosystem where the competing forces we found very changing in banking, and I find quite similar in automobile. For example, when you studied MBA 20 years, 25 years ago, they used to talk about conventional forces. Today they're talking about user experience. They're talking about data. They're talking about network connectivity. I think one needs to probably fundamentally make a shift in the way we're thinking. Banking 10 years ago was completely different. Today, I think 60-70% of the time in all our plans we're discussing tech. That never happened 8-10 years ago. And I see probably that happening in the automobile. I probably don't see all OEMs, when I talk to them, talking a similar tech language as some of them do. And in my crystal gaze, I feel maybe it's going to follow that, because end of the day, the customer is going to drive your demand and not the other way around. And we've seen it ourselves. We also have branches. We also, just the way you have dealerships, our branches are also growing. But I think they are getting much more technologically advanced. But technology, by the way, also adds a lot of value and expands markets at times. Look at the transparency it creates. We ourselves in the banking world have created an end-to-end digital product in the auto space as well, and without even a touch of physical in it. And it took us effort and time, but I think we find that the customers hugely find it valuable, and especially the youngsters in the age of 20-25 years are very, very comfortable using it across board. So I think with the tech giants anyway, halfway there between even trying cars, leave alone the softwares, the challenge itself might really surprisingly shift from car manufacturing to probably interconnected softwares and proprietary softwares in the future for the automobile industry.
Thanks, Arvind. Yeah, clearly I think software is replacing hardware in everything. Even cars, you have now software-defined cars, where really the architecture is set and then life cycles are done with software rather than proper refreshes. So clearly software is the way forward, and technology. And Dinesh, with that, I'd just like to turn to you. You're very far away. So, you've heard everyone talk. I think what common theme is coming out is transparency. It is a good thing, trust and transparency. It really helps business. And more than that, creates a good relationship and removes any distrust, lingering distrust, between the customer, dealer, manufacturer. So, and technology obviously has the biggest role to play in this here. Just to understand, from a products and services point of view, where are we headed here?
Hello. Thanks, FADA, for giving me an opportunity to express myself over here. Yeah, I completely echo what Arvind said just now in terms of the technology. What we are doing at Kuwait, of course, I think we have already heard about the thoughts, particularly on the new cars. And I would like to also highlight on the used car piece, because the used car business also is expanding pretty well at this point of time. And I hear that close to about 4,000 crores kind of volumes are happening on a monthly basis in the used car. So at Kuwait, we have identified certain things as how we look at it. The industry, this retail industry is getting more service oriented as such. So the dealer, customer, and the lenders, these these are very, very pivotal pieces which need to be interconnected with the help of technology by creating transparency. Customer basically he wants to know, I mean he wants to optimize the value for his car shopping, that we want to give him the benefit. On his fingertips, we want to give him the information also, on all the aspects of the car that he wants to buy. What could be the features of that car, what could be the valuation, what could be the, say, service history of the car that he wants to buy, particularly used car. Similarly, for the dealer, we want to provide the technology by which he will be able to churn his business fast and improve his profitability. And for the lender, we want to give the comfort that the customer which is being brought to the lender is very well curated, so he can rely, and also the vehicle that is being financed, which is a collateral for that funding, has the lender is in a much better position now to know, with the help of technology, that what is the valuation and what is the background of that particular vehicle. So I think I feel that technology is really playing a pivotal part in bringing the transparency across this value chain, and that is going to accentuate this business further. That's what I feel.
Right. Thanks for that. And, just moving on to the second round, looking at the way the customer is evolving, clearly technology is just linking all parts of the business very seamlessly. And, really, what I'd like to talk about is just a shift in, is there a shift in auto retail moving from really being retail-based to a total service-based model where, I think all components are sort of integrated and, it goes across through the life cycle of ownership. I know it does happen theoretically as well, but, the traditional way of doing retail, does that have to have now a dramatic shift towards really a more service oriented approach? Rajiv, back to you to kick off this round.
So actually, So actually that shift is already happening in my view. When you have connected cars and you're talking about car as a platform and lots of subscription services you start giving in the car, those subscriptions again, you can take direct payment, but again, dealer interface, as Santosh mentioned, is I think is very, very important. Yes, in case of some niche vehicles, some new startups, they are trying a direct model and they have their own franchise they're trying to achieve. So again, but they have their own franchise to reach to the customer. There you can argue it can be your franchise versus a dealer, a third party, but the model remains same. Ownership is different. So I think dealer definitely has a big role. Only thing is now different services, subscriptions would be there as we go forward. And to some extent, you can even take the current model in the same narrative. As an example, when you take insurance, so insurance as a service you are taking. After sales, there are a lot of packages. It's a extended warranty package, it's a RSA package, So that's again is a service, which you are doing it. Registration as a service is a separate thing, So that's there. But further what we are going to add it is, like as I said, subscription services on the car side. So as an example, the data. When you're giving the data in the car, already we are seeing in our case that some basic data you have to give to the customer as a given. Extra data for streaming music they have to buy. So that's happening right now. Likewise, suppose as an example, we are giving different digital passport services to a consumer, means you can have the health of your vehicle in terms of a digital passport. So customer has to pay for that, and again, dealer also gets some money part of that. So lots of such services because of car as a platform is going to happen. And then we have to see in full integrated way that how dealer is going to make money from these various services and how dealer gets integrated. Maybe some services are given directly by OEMs, but some services are through the dealer partner. And again, the whole thing is about technology, that how technology wraps up the whole thing in a very transparent way to consumer as well as to dealer.
Right. Santosh, I think Rajiv talked about the value add, the additional services, and I mean, even from the dealership standpoint, it's another stream of revenue. So multiple streams of revenues also which are there, and also, let's say, more benefits to the customer. So just, now, as Rajiv said, everything's connected. IoT, 5G, everything in the cloud. There's so much that can be driven. Actually, the opportunities are endless. So do you think this is really going to be one big differentiator going forward? Because the usual stuff is now hygiene, to be honest, just giving the basic service, sales and service, which has been done traditionally.
No, I think exactly what Rajiv mentioned, the best is yet to come. When you look at our cars now, and we are already going to configure cars where today's business model is you sell a car and then it comes back for service, for parts and labor. Tomorrow you sell a car and then we realize that we can offer more features, say rear axle steering, which can go up to 11 degrees, and originally was 4 degrees. Now you charge a lakh of rupees, you earn dealer margin on that, straight, because this is a feature at the time of launch it didn't exist, but maybe after 2 years, due to software, we are able to now deploy it in the car. We have such kind of packages. The second is, today you are dependent on your call center to call a customer and say, hey, is your service due? Have you done so many kilometers? Tomorrow or even today, our cars are sending service reminders and the customer can directly press a button, not even use the mobile phone, call our service center and book a service appointment. So the third is taking away aggregators. Of course, this requires data consent. And data consent, because none would like to do marketing in cars, because we have a direct access to the head unit. But let's take an example of insurance. Today, you have aggregators who are taking away your data and trying to sell. Tomorrow, the technology will enable an insurance product to be given to the customer at the right time based on the driving behavior, and he pays from the car. We have Mercedes We Pay, for example, and this is all elements where dealers or franchisee partners will be able to benefit. So we are also evolving. We are all aware that on EVs, the cost of ownership is great because, for the customer, but that also means some revenues goes away from partners. How does that get compensated or overcompensated with technology, digital, and also with this car interfaces? I think that's where the threshold will be. And it will take another 5 to 7 years for this to fully develop. But we are already there, and we can see this coming much faster than we anticipated.
You spoke of data and, giving data, but how do you think the new Data Protection Act what sort of an impact would this have? Santosh, sticking with you.
No, so, today, very openly here, we can see, we talk about registration. We can see Aadhaar cards to personal data being emailed within the dealership just for registration. This is a taboo completely. These are personal data which we cannot be handled. And this is where technology comes now. That it's a matter of time now. I think the OEMs and I would say FADA or dealer fraternity will have to put tools to ensure data privacy, to ensure they are stored in the right manner, they are utilized only if there is consent. The consent given to you and consent given to an OEM, they may be same or different, and then can we use it? And what storage, where do we store the data? So these are added costs coming in all our way, at our end, at your end. So we need to be cognizant, we need to be aware, and I think we have to be prepared. But the good part is India is taking a bit of the European GDPR, but also having its own way in this current bill, which is not, in some areas it's a bit relaxed, but in some areas I think it would be more stringent, and it's a cultural topic. We have never been used to not sending emails with a customer mobile phone number, and maybe we don't feel it today when we add an Aadhaar card when we are sending an email within the organization, which would be a taboo topic in the future.
Right, thanks Santosh. And Akash, looking at the CV side, again, going beyond, retail, going to the services, clearly, things like telematics, more data, is that really the way forward to give, for customers? Are they looking for that?
Absolutely. I think everything connects to the change in business models. Today's truck or bus, like any other product, is becoming more electric and electronic. It's less mechanical, and that is shaping up rather fast. So everything is about technology. Everything more or less is coming down to data, or data sharing, or data protection.
Sorry, but from truck customers, what are the key things you think they would look at specifically? Obviously, it's a lot to do with running costs, I'm sure.
Yes. So let's take our example at Volvo Eicher. Every single truck or bus sold since April 2020, when Bharat Stage 6 came into play, which would be between 1 to 2 lakh vehicles over this period or a little more, are connected with data. They are connected with the Eicher app, where the customer or a large operator on the truck side or the bus side can then get all the data. How is the driver driving? Is the braking too much? Is there any pilferage when it comes to diesel fuel? Is there any major disruption when the bus or truck is running on road? Because then from the uptime center, you can call the driver and inform you need to stop now, or you need to go to our next partner or dealership spot where you need to take care of the vehicle. So everything is traceable now. And this is not restricted anymore to, let's say, like earlier on a car industry. This very much runs the truck and bus industry today, because end of the day, any truck or bus which runs efficiently generates more revenue for the end customer, for all the passengers they take or the load they take, and that leads to profitability. Electric is making the big change, because with electric, most of the mechanical things are gone. And in our business, especially in buses, that's coming rather fast. And that is where technology plays all the role. Because already from the end bus which runs in the city, each and every parameter for service for our dealerships or for ourselves is now based on telematics, based on electronics, and everything is readable. Your penalties get defined through technology. It's not manual reading anymore. You get paid through technology and not through what your odometer reading shows. So the times are changing. And this is bringing also the fact back then to mobility services, which will be pay per kilometer, which we see happening in our industry now, which we've been talking about for 2 decades, but now starts to take shape.
Look, I think clearly, again, even I think in your industry, we've seen technology playing a role. In the two-wheeler industry, Ranjit, I wanted to get your thoughts again. Different kind of customer, but again, very value conscious, wants transparency. And, do you think there'll be a time when just every brand will, apps are just going to be the order of the day, where you can really, bundle all your services just through a smartphone?
I think you're reading my mind a little bit. But again, stepping back onto scale, with 109 million Hero vehicles sold, there's a huge opportunity for replacement and driving replacement demand. Just in the last 5 months since we launched this India's first phygital, it's Wheels of Trust, where a consumer can just go and get an evaluation for his or her two-wheeler, no matter which brand it is, and get a valuation and go out to a Hero Shore outlet and change and exchange it. Just imagine the scale at which technology has brought this change, and what a major convenience it's creating for our consumers. So the replacement market is getting really spiraled, and again, the dealers are at front and center, because what we're trying to do is to move business from a disaggregated and pretty fragmented market to our dealerships for that upgrade possibility. And we are seeing the results in that. The other thing that's happening with the help of technology is the predictability that was spoken about just now, in terms of what is needed to be done for the vehicle, when it's to be attended to, and how you can optimize it best. This is creating a huge revenue stream at the service level for our dealerships. And that's another absolutely fantastic development that we are seeing, a big uptick as we're going along. Another big thing is just in the area of experience and test rides and deliveries and all of that, which is coming in more and more through the app and technology. Now, the key to this entire thing, for this whole plan to sort of take off for the dealers, is that the dealers need the tools. They need the online platforms. And for a brand like, and a company like Hero MotoCorp, getting the dealers on board onto that single view is one of the big priorities for us. So getting the online platform on. Then providing the dealers with the toolkits because they can't go to agencies and get stuff done. So it needs to be within seconds they can start loading so that they can get those kind of acquisition of customers and converting them. And then it's a training at scale, huge amount of training investment for technology. So it can't just be in isolation. We have to do this together, and we are taking that role to bring the dealerships up to the level that the consumer's already at. This is one of those things that the consumer's way ahead of us. And what we're trying to do is to enable the ecosystem to get there. And I know that the dealers are very appreciative of these efforts because they can see the results and the direct ROI of their time and investment in this kind of a path.
Absolutely. I think, having the right platforms to kind of give the multitude of services and, Arvind, just from your side, for the banking sector, technology, just going beyond the loan, again, is it giving more content? Is it giving, more information? What is it that, in terms of added services, the direction going ahead?
Are you talking from a banking perspective?
Yeah,
or from an automobile?
No, from the banking perspective, from the loan perspective.
Yeah. No, I think in the loans world is moving towards very clear direction of digital. But I think it's got a pretty decent runway of an assisted digital model because it depends also on the rate of growth. World over, pure digital also has challenges in terms of keeping the growth rate alive. So while there's a huge amount of excitement about the young guys going in for it, if you got to kind of manage a certain rate of growth, and that's where even in the automobile sector, I feel while we are partnering with new technologies to create a digital ecosystem, I think in an experiential kind of a business, dealers would play probably a very critical role along with technology, and probably one needs to play it with all the partners to kind of take a real serious lift for success over the next 5-7 years. And we've seen that in the banking as well. So, and of course, you mentioned about data privacy. So one line I have on that is that we've seen the greater the data privacy, I think the customer confidence also moves up. And the regulation also brings in an environment of trust. And I think that adds a much greater market in the long run.
Dinesh, turning to you again, you've heard all the panelists speak clearly, technology providing further services, and of course the whole issue of data privacy as well.
So, yes, there is a risk and opportunity on both sides. Both sides I would look at it. At this point of time, as Santosh mentioned, that the GDPR which has been implemented in the EU, it is not yet come fully in India. It is in process. We need to have a preparation and a political will to make sure that it comes there, definitely. But I can see that at OEM's end there is a big challenge because they are the controllers of the private data, and there are dealers who are the processors of that information. So I think at controlling and the processing end, both there are challenges. That's what I see. However, the opportunity is this data would be available, and if it is responsibly used, then probably there is a larger opportunity. If the OEMs who are the controllers of this data, if they put up the data policing system, if there are breaches, then they are highlighted to the respective authorities within the stipulated time. Then probably as this would enhance the consumer confidence, and probably more business opportunities can be generated out of usage of this data in a more responsible way. That's what I feel.
Right, thank you, Dinesh, and I think we are very close to running out of time, so don't want to get into another round, but I think we have time for maybe a question or two, so anyone in the audience wants to ask something, we can, I guess a mic can go around. Can't see any hands up. Well, if there are no questions, then I just like to wrap this session. It's a bit early, and I think clearly it's been a very fascinating discussion. I think what's really clear to reiterate is the value of technology in creating a better customer experience across the whole ownership life cycle of products, and I think the way it can just seamlessly integrate all parts of it. I think transparency is absolutely vital. I think we've heard everyone say is that really is what builds customer confidence. And of course, there are issues of data privacy which one has to really, be cognizant of. But I think what's good is that overall demand is good. Customers still want to buy cars and products and bikes, and hopefully, the whole industry will have, well, there are headwinds, but I think overall things are looking good. So with that, I'd just like to end and thank all our panelists for joining us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Session Chair, and thank you all our esteemed speakers for your very excellent deliberations on the various initiatives and steps to have the future ready along with its challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point I'd like to invite Mr. C.S. Vigneshwar and Mr. Prashant Joshi, requesting them to please come on stage and felicitate our speakers and session moderator. So we request you to felicitate all our speakers one by one along with our session moderator.